A student produced this for UND's TV show, Studio One.
3D printers have been used to make architectural models, prosthetics, and even film props. College student and CEO of 3C Innovators, Jonathan Puhl, is using his ideas to bring others to life. Thanks for joining us today, John.
Not a problem. Thanks for letting me come on.
So first off, what is 3C Innovators?
So 3C Innovators is a culmination of a couple ideas that we wanted to bring back in education. It's not just building a product and design for what you want to create, so bringing your idea into fruition in your hands. But we also want to change education into project-based. So we want to go from, like I would test basic skills, for my example, is bringing that back to projects and getting students involved together, co-communicating and building networks, stuff like that.
So you're an undergrad student. What motivated you to get started?
Actually, in the beginning, it was trying to develop a product, and I struggled for quite a while, put a little bit of more money than I should have into it, and I wanted to solve that issue for students actually first. So it's mainly to help students go from idea into what they can create.
So why 3D printing though?
3D printing is actually quite new. I've followed it for about 10 years now, but in terms of what you can do with it, it's quite expansive. There's a couple materials. There's not just plastic that everybody always sees. There's wood, metal, rubber, even nylon. Even actually designers are putting that into their show models, so it was one of the best choices ever.
So what type of capabilities do you have with your 3D printer?
Actually, with ours, we can do plastic, wood, rubber, metal, nylon. There's actually a couple different ones that they're trying to reintroduce, so it's just what we have at the moment, but there's tons of upgradability. We can even print in 2 materials at once, so the options are always changing.
So are 3D printers hard to work? Like, can anyone use one?
They're pretty hands-on. They're not too bad actually in the beginning. It's just getting used to the intro software with how it operates in terms of the computer, but other than that, they're pretty simple.
So you have brought some prototypes with you today. Do you want to explain what they are?
Yep, so actually what we'll do is grab this guy. This is one of my favorites that I actually designed for the School of Entrepreneurship. We're doing a weekly system later on, and this is an example of the pin that we're making for the school, and we wanted to blow it up and bring it out into proportion so they can see exactly what it is. And then off of that is where one of my favorite examples is this little elephant. So in terms of this, everything moves and how it all works, but actually it was printed, assembled. It was printed like that.
So what is the cost and time to make something small like this?
It's actually pretty affordable. The way that it works is usually a lot of manufacturers charge by either weight or by gram, or some even do by time. So we go by gram, and it works much more affordably that way.
So I know you go to classrooms and you help out students bring their ideas to life. What do you hope to achieve in the classroom?
What we want to bring is back what we did when we were young, or at least when I was younger in like middle school. We went outside, we did projects, we felt hands-on with project. It wasn't about all this data just looking through. It was like, oh, we have to figure out how to better teach a student. We should just go physically to the student and show them exactly what they're doing.
So how do you believe this benefits students?
When you give a student a really hard task and you ask them, well, you have to solve this, we're only going to give you a couple guidelines and a couple hints. So if you ask them to look deeper into what they want to do, especially a product that's really broad, and go, we want you to create something off of that. We want you to develop your knowledge off of what you know.
And so what do you see as the future of 3D printing in general?
3D printing is actually going to turn into mass production eventually. That's what it wants to get into. Like eventually we want to get into a higher end printer that we would like to get. It's just a matter of affording one of those. But it can actually, the turnaround time is amazingly quick, especially for prototypes and businesses all over.
So what's next for 3C Innovators?
For 3C, we want to start getting into high schools as soon as possible, and that way we can try and bridge that gap between project-based and just getting into developing students to design and think differently, not just go, oh, I have to go to math class or English or learn this formula and memorize. We want them to do something.
And so what's it like for you to see someone's idea come to life? Like working with people, what's your favorite part of that?
It's actually my favorite thing, especially when we're actually going through classes right now with students and watching really early on how they struggle at first to really figure out how to think differently on a project. How do I create something? How do I differentiate what's existing? How do I change? And at the end, you see that when they either give their presentation or they show their product. It's like, we put this time into it, this is what's different, here's how it's from what exists already. And that's one of the greatest joys.
And what has been your favorite idea that you've worked with?
Oh man, Probably my favorite idea so far is actually one that we just got done with in a class. It's called the Titanic, and it's a grocery bag holder. It's an ice scraper, and it has like a flashlight in it. So it's a matter of what you can think around it.
All right. Well, it sounds like very cool. Thanks for joining us today, John.
Well, thank you very much for letting me here.